The Alabama state legislature, which is controlled by Republicans, has been debating the most restrictive abortion bill that we've seen in the country in recent weeks. And this week, they ultimately passed it. This is by far the most restrictive bill that we've seen in a long time. It doesn't allow for any abortions except those that are required for reasons of serious health risks to the mother. The lack of a rape or incest exception makes this very much out of step with previous bills. In this case, the Alabama Republican Party had a debate about this at one point. They delayed the bill because they were conflicted about whether they wanted to include rape and incest exceptions. Ultimately, they decided to put the bill forward without those exceptions. Anti-abortion activists have been putting these bills forward in many states. Many of them seem to be efforts towards getting the Supreme Court to weigh in on this. A lot of them are pretty obviously contradictory to Roe v. Wade and other Supreme Court precedents on abortion. But by passing all these laws, they're basically tempting the Supreme Court to take up those cases. Now, that's especially significant now because we have a clear 5-4 conservative majority on the Supreme Court, which we did not have before Justice Brett Kavanaugh. Republican legislators support the bills because they are broadly anti-abortion rights, but there are people behind these efforts that are not state lawmakers that are very much pushing for these efforts, looking to push the envelope when it comes to abortion rights, and Alabama has certainly gone further than anyone before that. The assumption is that this will be challenged in the courts, probably in several different ways. And if you talk to the activists who are behind this, they're actually very transparent about how this is an effort to get the Supreme Court to take up Roe v. Wade again, maybe overturn it, and they don't actually have any illusions that this is actually going to go into effect necessarily. A lot of states have passed less restrictive bills that also seem to be at odds with Roe v. Wade. Those seem to be geared towards a more incremental approach at chipping away at Roe v. Wade. Maybe that's creating a smaller window for abortions, putting restrictions on abortion providers, requiring people to get a certain amount of information before obtaining abortions. Those are all things that actually have a fair amount of support in American society. This goes well beyond that, though. This is clearly an effort to take the core of Roe v. Wade and put that in front of the Supreme Court again. They're trying to change the precedent. And the Supreme Court, by the way, has had these kinds of cases before. In order for a case to get to the Supreme Court, 4 of the 9 justices need to agree to hear that. We would assume that those would generally come from the court's right flank, which might be more interested in overturning Roe v. Wade. The question from there is, would Justice Kavanaugh vote to take up the case? Would Chief Justice Roberts vote to take up the case? By doing this, the Alabama Republican Party is effectively shedding a more cautious, incremental approach that abortion rights opponents had pursued in recent years.